Hey, we got 7:05. This is the Town of Farmington Town Board meeting for July 14th. We have a full board here tonight. First item on the agenda, for those that are able to, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for last meeting on the June 24th. So,
Second.
there's my name, second by Ollie. Any correction? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Privilege of the floor. Anybody here tonight? Privilege of the floor?
Yes, I have a public concern I would like to voice. My name is Aaron Bissell. I'm the Water and Sewer Superintendent. I currently reside at 1240 McMahon Road in Victor. I'm also in the process of purchasing property here in the town of Farmington to build on. My concern is regards to a resolution that's on the agenda this evening. The resolution is to provide a mid-budget raise to another town employee. My concern is not with the wage increase that is being given to the fellow employee. However, it is with the supporting documentation and background provided in the language of the resolution. The resolution states, and this is an abridged version, after reviewing current salaries, it was found that the current wage was on the lower end of frequently posted openings. My concern is that the Deputy Water Sewer Superintendent and I conducted extensive research approximately 10 months ago, exhibiting exactly the same situation across all titles within the Water and Sewer Department. And to date, little to nothing has been done to bridge the gap between our salaries and the salaries of the communities around us of similar size class. So I would be interested in receiving an explanation for the difference in action taken with the same information provided. Thank you.
Any other comments, concerns? All right, thank you. I have one. Yes, so just for everybody in the room, just please state your name and your address for the record for the town clerk.
My name is James Lance. I've been an employee here at the town of Farmington Highway Department for 15 years. Very thankful for everything the town has done for me. They taught me everything I know. I started from nothing and basically everything I know at this point in my job has been the guys on the floor. I would like to bring before the board a question of why the highway department is not entitled to 10 hours of holiday pay when we're scheduled for 10 hours for our normal work.
I talked to your highway superintendent about that. We reviewed that with our town attorney, one of our attorneys. And we have done exactly what we've always done in the past, is that whether it's a 10-hour shift or a 9-hour shift, it's 8 hours of pay. And we told the highway superintendent that we're changing that information in the employee handbook to read 8-hour days, 8 hours of pay per day.
Well, why is it singled out as 8 hours when we're entitled to a 40-hour per week paycheck?
Because it's not fair to everybody else.
Why isn't that fair? You can become where it sounded a little bit, and why it's not fair?
Well, because you're getting, in this particular instance, the holiday was on a Saturday. The policy says the holiday is on a Friday. Everybody takes that Friday off. In this case, you guys also took Thursday off. Okay? Our attorney said, why are you doing that? They shouldn't have the extra days. But that was after the fact. We paid everybody anyways for that day. So
8 hours, still got 8 hours pay for them.
And that's exactly,
if that logic is followed, if there's a holiday on, say, a Sunday or a Saturday, why are the other departments not being penalized for having a holiday on a Saturday, they already got that Saturday off. It doesn't follow.
Yeah, I lost you on that. Anybody else? Any comments?
With all due respect, I think what he's saying is all the employees have Saturdays off. So why would you penalize someone who normally wouldn't work a Saturday anyway, for them not to have Thursday off?
The observed holiday was Friday. This is the first I've heard of the.
But they don't work Friday,
Extra day off for an observed holiday.
but they don't work Friday.
Right.
Like, I don't work a Saturday, so I have Friday off, but they don't work Fridays, so they would have Thursday.
Again, only telling you, we weren't able to talk to the attorney until after the pay period. But he questioned, why are you even paying for that Thursday? They've got Monday through Thursdays, the 40 hours, the observed holiday is Friday. We pay anyways, so, you know, it doesn't matter.
Just change the handbook. You said you've been doing this for a while. So you've gone against the handbook for how many years?
No, it's the first time that somebody is questioning the wording in the handbook. But the policy, let me finish. Policy has always been 8 hours.
However,
Any-
in the handbook that you hold us accountable to, it clearly states all holiday pay will be paid in accordance with your scheduled work shift, which for us is 10 hours. So therefore, it's not right that we get docked that 2 hours or have to compensate out of our own personal time to supplement a 40-hour work week, which you, as an employer, said you would give us. That is a discrepancy.
Hi, Patricia Goff, resident of Canada, one possible future resident of Farmington. I also want to express my concern, saying to Shane's, that the highway department's employees are being penalized during holiday weeks when other departments are not. It's, the handbook states that the hours for that department are 10-hour days. And they are being penalized 2 hours, being paid for 8, when in fact they should be paid for 10. Is the department, town of Farmington employees, are they entitled to know who the attorney is? Because they're representing the board's wishes, and they are penalizing the workers' rights for the town of Farmington Highway Department. Possibly the water department as well. I'm not certain, but I know for the highway department, they are being penalized.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
I have another concern along those lines, because we may be on 10-hour days year round, that will be 28 hours of our own personal vacation time that we have to use to make up for the time of the holidays, which is almost a full week of vacation that the highway employees will have to use just to maintain a 40-hour paycheck for those holidays.
Again, that's your bosses. We don't control the hours worked. The highway superintendent controls the hours, so. If
I
he,
understand you control the hours, that's not my question, I have no problem working 10 hours.
no, I don't understand what you said also,
I have no problem with my boss, he's just fine.
right? Yep.
Can I offer a possible solution? From my understanding, when I was oriented to this position, there was an HR committee. Like, is this something that the HR committee could meet on to deliberate?
The other thing, the highway superintendent is not saying anything, but he gave me a proposal this week. For the 10-hour days. And possibly, working out that whole thing. I just been too busy to look at it this week, but that's something. Again, that we can look at.
So we don't plan on acting on the handbook changes tonight. There's some other questions that were raised, and that's the reason that we have the delay. We scheduled the public hearings. People voiced their concerns. There were some other questions that came up and we want more time to look at it, so we don't plan on actually acting tonight. We do want to look at this further. My understanding is that for longer than I've been on the town board, the 10-hour days was only done during the summer, and the standard policy was they were paid 8 hours in holidays. So the changing the wording was some more to make the wording meet what we have been doing for decades. But I also, we understand the concern with that, and with some other questions that came up, there's a lot, that people have just been asked for clarification on certain wording. Some clarification regarding like the sick time carried over, so that we just want to give more time for us to look at these questions, give a better answer, and address the concerns that were brought up. Despite what we do listen, and we want to take all this into account before we make any decisions on that.
Just,
Sorry. I'm Devin, I work for the highway department. Not to prolong this conversation even longer, but, I feel that you guys need to understand that it may be just a couple hours. We risk our lives for this town. I literally come in at 3:30 in the morning when the roads aren't plowed for this town. I risk a lot for this town. And to protect your interests as well. Because if somebody has an accident, that's our fault. It's 2 hours to you. It's a lot for me. Because that's the difference between a tank of gas or food in your belly. So please just take that into advice.
thank you, Devin. Appreciate it. Give anybody else a chance first. Anybody else want to say something? Okay, go ahead.
The town employees received a memorandum dated July 1st, 2026 regarding an employee handbook update. Second to last paragraph, it is the intent to submit said update to the town board for approval at the town board meeting on July 14th. So people are here because of a memorandum that was received from Peter Inglesby pertaining to the subject of the employee handbook. I think that's why there's some confusion. Matthew, thank you for clearing up that this is simply to bring up the issue.
Yeah, so that, we already talked before the meeting started that we're gonna pull resolution number 2. We've jumped into the conversation ahead of time.
Policy is that any changes to the handbook are given to the employees 2 weeks ahead of time or not. And the feedback, like I said, some of the feedback came in this week, and we decided that there's some questions that we need to look into further.
It actually,
We're not gonna do it now. We're not gonna move on it now. We'll pull it and if there's any major wording change, then we'll, get acknowledged with that as well, so that employees have some time to look at it and understand needs of both.
you're welcome. Anybody else? Yes.
Robert Poole.
Hey, Robert.
If we're done with the employee issues, I'd like to address the,
E-bikes.
e-bikes, yeah. I have a copy of the proposed, new regulation. And there were just a few minor things that I wanted to touch on before the next meeting. For one thing, it makes reference to, in section B, private property. Nobody shall operate a motor-driven recreational vehicle on private property. Private property is the term defined in 155-3.0 in this chapter. But that section actually refers to private neighborhoods, not private property in general.
Ron, isn't there another that said something about you have to have permission from the private
Property
owner?
yes. I didn't see.
And we're not restricting it on private, we're not restricting on private property, but
Well, that's what I thought, but that's the way it reads right now. And the definition in the section referenced is for private neighborhood, which I know people have been complaining about that in that one.
Like HOAs, private roads, not your personal private property.
Yeah. Okay, well, in any case, that was one of the issues. Really, the only other thing I had a question about was with regard to, law enforcement impounding, recreational vehicles. And it seems to me that, while what's there is well written, there is no time limit for, recovery of the vehicle or I'm not sure what the term would be, but, getting it back from the impounding agency. There's no time limit and there's no provision for, disposal of unclaimed vehicles.
Yeah, so that would be up to the law enforcement agency that took the action. Normally, unless it's involved in fatality, normally a minor incident where the e-bike has been impounded by a tow service, is most likely what happens in Ontario County. The folks can go in like next day or the day after and pay the towing fee and get their bike back. It's
It's a substantial investment, and I'm sure most people would do that, but there may be some circumstances where, for whatever reason, they don't sign.
Yeah, I talked to the sheriff and the undersheriff about that, and if that situation happens, we can talk to the owner about donating it to the sheriff's department. Then they wouldn't have to buy one.
They're not gonna be impound for the sheriff's office impound lot, there's just not gonna be room though, by impound, say, like if it's a vehicle that doesn't have registration or no insurance on it. It's impounded, whereas it's towed, the tow company takes it back to their impound. The owner can go get it that day, paying the tow fee, and every day that they don't get it, they incur storage. Not that the sheriff's office will hold it unless there's something more serious happening with a criminal investigation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yes,
Sure.
Sarah Cernelia, 4570 Greenbrier Drive. I just wanted to know if, what Aaron had asked about resolution 6 with the raise the mid-year for the construction and stuff there, was that going to be acted on or?
That's up to the board's decision.
Okay,
We don't necessarily answer in public forums. We don't have to respond to concerns.
I just wanted to say though that I kind of question too, would be paid. Yeah, compared to all other towns. I do love this town and I hope to continue here. But financially, I understand why people leave. We've lost a lot of employees over the years because of pay, and I just hope that you take into consideration part of our LGBT here and consider that.
All right, thank you.
for everyone.
So this is a situation regarding an individual, so a single person. Not diminishing with the work of anybody else, but we've already lost one construction inspector, so it was the second. It'd be very burdensome on the town. Department wide is something that really is addressed at budget time. So we do have finances that we've lost construction inspector. It's not going to affect the bottom line budget. And we have worked with the department heads, and I've been on the board. We've done a good job. Obviously, we could always do better, but trying to increase the pay scale, figuring out a process that we were able to with the last budget as far as stepping new employees up, so there's not always this constant pay gap that we get leveled for years, because if everybody gets the same percentage, the guys getting more are always screaming ahead. So we put in a step system, and after a certain number of years, everybody knows that you're gonna have the same step, which is, I think a better policy as far as getting people up to a higher pay rate, and then adjusting what that top pay is at budget time, especially for, across the entire department, is when we have to address that. We don't have the funds to do pay increases for every single employee across every single department in the budget. So in this instance, this fund's available. That's obviously something that we plan on discussing during budget time for next year's salaries. And if we need to make adjustments to the steps, we've had a conversation with Aaron about maybe condensing the steps or eliminating some of the steps, increasing the starting wage to kind of address this.
For some factual information, my employee salary average, excluding management, is $29 an hour. The starting rate average for communities of our size, the starting rate, entry level, is $31.35. My average and which includes employees that have been here 20 years, 10 years, and beyond, is $29. My average salary for my department is less than the starting salary for other communities of my size. We have a turnover issue in water and sewer. And much like Devin's example, we risk our lives. We are in here in the middle of the night fixing water main breaks. We are exposing ourselves to raw sewage on a daily basis. All I'm asking for is some consideration that we should get paid the same as everyone else. What is fair is what is fair. And a resolution that states that you've done research and then you've acted upon it when we did the same research and no action has been taken, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating as someone that's trying to manage a department. Constant turnover, especially in a water and sewer department, is detrimental to the quality of work that we do. I continually have to train new employees. It takes years to get employees the local knowledge that we need to operate and maintain the systems that we work on. We work on complicated systems. My staff does an excellent job. We are understaffed compared to where we were 10 years ago, and the system has done nothing but grow. This is a problem that I identified as soon as I came here, and I don't feel like there's been enough done. That people are continuing to look for other opportunities to leave. We bring people in, we train them, and then they go. We're losing. We are losing knowledge. We are training people to go work for others. That we're the best around. You had a superintendent stand up there and tell you that a year ago, that we are the best water and sewer department around. We work the hardest. We do the best. We're not asking to be the most top tier pay. We're just asking to be somewhere in the realm of where everyone else is in our size class, and we are not. And no one can argue that we are. The facts are plain. They are clear. They've been presented to you. It is frustrating, incredibly frustrating. It erodes morale at my department.
Very bad. And we are working on correcting that. It's not something we can snap our fingers and fix overnight.
The problem was the same when the union was here, and it was the reason that my understanding that the union was brought in was because they got frustrated with waiting for something to happen at the board level and decided to take another avenue.
They negotiated a contract that gave lower wages than the town board gave other employees. It was a bad contract and a bad union. Thankfully, they've gotten rid of it, and we are addressing it at budget time, which for a department that when we have to address something like that, large scale wage adjustments.
Understood, but it's been something I've been beating the drum on for 18 months.
All right, thank you. Any other subjects? All right, we're going to go to the public hearing. I'll have the town clerk read the legal notice.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the town board of the town of Farmington on the 14th day of July 2026 at 7 p.m. Farmington Town Hall, 1000 County Road 8, Farmington, New York. To consider proposed improvements to the town of Farmington sewer district pursuant to section 202B of the New York State Town Law. Town of Farmington, on behalf of Farmington Sewer District, owns and operates sewer facilities and has become aware that improvements consisting of replacement of the existing sand filters with new mechanical testing, 2, rehabilitating the 2 final clarifiers in kind, 3, improving 2 of the pump stations, pump station 1 and pump station 2, 4, rehabilitation of the influent building, grit removal system, all 4 primary clarifiers, 2 additional final clarifiers 3 and 4, chemical bulk storage improvements, and the rehabilitation and rebuild of pump station number 3, along with all other ancillary and necessary improvements associated with upgrading the wastewater treatment plant, which are improvements beyond the original scope of the project, are now necessary, and that the estimated cost for these additional improvements is $14,700,000. Such estimated cost to be the responsibility of the Farmington Sewer District. As a result, the town engineer has prepared a preliminary engineering report with a last revision date of June of 2026, which describes the improvements and shows the estimated cost for all improvements to be $14,700,000. All persons shall be entitled to be heard upon this matter at such public hearing. Copies of preliminary engineering report showing these proposed improvements and the costs are available for review at the town of Farmington, Town Hall, 1000 County Road 8, Farmington, New York. This by resolution of the town board of the town of Farmington.
Thank you, Michelle. Bill, at this time, could you do a quick presentation, and Aaron, please chime in?
Yeah.
think if you don't mind, I'll go up to the board up here where we have the drawing. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about this.
There's a second word in the back too.
We're here, right here in front of you there. And then this board here, and I know it's probably hard for all of you to see, but I'll walk through this real quick. And then I'll be here afterwards too, if anybody has any technical questions or specific questions, but we wanted to give a little bit of an explanation. There's a bond resolution on tonight for 14.7 million for the town to consider in regards to improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. Back in 2004 and 2005, let's go back that far. The plant was expanded back at that time frame. The town spent a considerable amount of dollars, about 15 to 18 million at the time, to expand the treatment plant from 2 million gallons a day to 4. It was a great project for the town. It was pretty much, the plant was near capacity at that point, and it opened up capacity for development and future capacity for the town, which we still have available to us today. However, that considerable amount of money that went into that project in 04-05 was strictly for that purpose, and that was to expand the capacity of the plant from 2 to 4 MGD, and not necessarily address all of the equipment and the needs of the treatment plant at that time. I guess I should stand a little closer to that. So with that being said, as we come 20 years later, the bond payment for that project is coming to an end. And some improvements that were made back then, which were just some rehabilitation of what's known as the sand filter and rehabilitation of the 2 of the 4 final clarifiers, have come to the end of their useful life. They were rehabbed during the original project, but it was totally meant just to get another 10 to 15 years out of those components, and that was successful. So the original project at about 6 million was to address the filtration system, I'll say primarily at the treatment plant. That being said, the filtration system continued to degrade. The project started in a planning phase about a year or 2 ago, I would say. Since that time, the filters are now being bypassed. They have failed, and it's a pretty imminent project to get those filters replaced. The town has been currently under violation with DEC and has a consent order to repair those. One thing that does for the town is it does put them in a good position to get funding for a project due to the need that the state will see because of the consent order. In addition to that, we did a further, more comprehensive evaluation of all the components at the plant. And we can see that many of the components that were not touched in the 04-05 upgrades need significant improvements. Some of the equipment, which is considered a short-lived asset, about a 20-year survival life, some of that is also due to be replaced. So all things considered, those items, the majority of them are in the realm of $500,000 to $1 million to $1.5 million each component to replace. So it makes more fiscal sense, I would say, at this time, to consider those in a major project with the opportunity to potentially bond those, and also to be able, most importantly right now, to seek funding and grant dollars. Right now, at this time, bond resolution is necessary to authorize the borrowing because that's a requirement of the grant application. The project has been updated in an engineering report, and that report was necessary to seek funding and was prepared specifically for that reason. So right now we're in a situation where we're considering a $14.7 million project in lieu of the $6 million project to address a lot of these items. I will let Aaron go further into it if he wants to here in a minute, but the treatment plant is a very corrosive environment. The equipment there takes a toll on the equipment, so it doesn't always last. There's a lot of stainless steel components, there's a lot of aluminum components, but not everything
is resistant enough to last 20, 50 years. In fact, 20 years is probably the going lifespan for a lot of the major equipment components. So at this point, the intent is to submit the applications for funding. We've got a number of potential grant programs, including what's called WIA, Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant dollars. WQIP, which is a grant through DEC, Water Quality Improvement Program grant. EFC financing, and quite frankly, anything else that we can get our hat in the ring on as far as grant dollars. So I think with that, I'll stop for a second. I've thrown a lot at everybody. So does anybody have questions on this project and how we got to this point?
Let's see, how many gallons are going through it?
We're on an average of about 2 bags.
Still,
That's an
so
annual.
Carolina, 50%.
Yes,
Right.
and
That's a good.
it's very good news. And then I commend the town, and the town runs both Farmington and Victor collection system. At the time that we did the project, they were at 2. And you can see the development that has occurred in Farmington. To contradict the increase in flow that they've seen at the plant, the town has done a lot of work on inflow and infiltration and getting stormwater and things that shouldn't go into the sewer collection system out of there. And it's kind of balanced itself. So as the flow from development has come up, the flow from I and the tightening up of the sewer collection system has greatly been improved by the staff and the town board.
Sir, just for the record, name and address.
Praiseville, Farmington, 6,600 Drive. I didn't really get it from your discussion. I'm trying to understand, what is the current state of the system, right? You mentioned the filter, I guess the sand filters, from bypass, water consent decree. I remember, I've only been here for about 4 years, but I remember like, I don't know, some violation we had, right? That was like, turn on water for a little bit. I kind of understand a little bit around, like, what's the current state, stuff, the bypass, stuff not working.
Yeah, great question. So I'll go back a little bit. You probably were talking about THM in the water system, which is a different issue altogether. And that actually has come down, and now we're in compliance for that drinking water issue. We built a new water storage tank, Brickyard Road tank, and put THM removal equipment in there. And in conjunction with the city and some of the management of hydrant flushing and different things that have been happening, that issue is addressed. Going back to the treatment plant, the sand filter is the only thing being bypassed right now. All the components are actually functioning and working, with the exception of some redundant components. So in a treatment plant, a lot of the pumps and drives and process components have some amount of redundancy. I would say for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, each process is working with the exception of the sand filtration, and the treatment plant is in significant compliance. They had a couple exceedances to their speedies permit because of the circumstances with the sand filter, but all in all, it's generally in compliance. But they're still under consent because you can't legally bypass a treatment process for an extended period of time without DECT.
Yeah, most of the plant is, the vast majority of the plant is operable and is online. Hired would be an appropriate word. We are reaching that 20-year lifespan on most of this equipment, so it does need either replacement and or rehabilitation. And the case of tankage that you see, they can be rehabilitated in place. We don't need to replace them. Some other pieces of equipment are at the point where they do need to be replaced. Bill is right that the only thing that is being bypassed right now is sand filtration. It is causing us to have some exceedances of what we discharge back to the environment. That hence the consent order, and hence our concern and our urgence to, move forward with a project to address the sand filter. At the same time, it would be, wise to address the other items that we can't necessarily handle in just a normal operation and maintenance budget. Hence the need to expand the scope of the project and include some additional items.
Aaron, can you explain the clarifier that we've had down?
Yeah, there is a redundant clarifier that is down, one of our final clarifiers. It's one of the last tanks that wastewater passes through to settle solid material. That clarifier is down. We are in the process of rehabilitating it in-house. We have the parts to rehabilitate that in-house, and hoping to have that back online October timeframe. It's a large undertaking for a staff that already has a large workload, but it is what we are doing. It is our intent to get that rehabilitated back online. And there'll be a completion to the mechanical components inside of that during the project. That is another item that is offline. Again, it is a redundant verifier. It would be nice to have it online, but as far as with our average flows, it really helped if we had that.
A lot of that doesn't boil down to the fact that they are only seeing 2 million gallons a day out of 4 million gallon a day capacity, so, you know, some of that helps, but as the town continues to grow, that's when it's more and more. And, you know, they're chasing their tail, just keeping things running.
Also, the fact that large development injectors, rental properties, that also feeds into our system. We gotta remember, it's also growth in Victor that flows our facility.
Is it just wastewater we're talking about, or is this drinking water?
This wastewater, this is just wastewater.
Just a second, just wanted to say something before I forget. In the town of Canandaigua, Purdy Road North to Town Line Road, that sewer also comes to this plant. Canandaigua, small piece of Canandaigua, small piece of Farmington, and part of Victor. And then the village of Victor also has a sewer treatment plant. And question right here, looks like, oh,
And what, since we share with a little bit of Canada, and Farmington and Victor, how much of your cost is it? Are we applying for grants for the whole entire project?
Yeah.
But why?
Well,
Not
the
for cost of it?
the treatment plant, when it was built and expanded, is a shared cost between all the users equally. The cost of any of the debt service, associated with really Plaster Mill Pump Station, which is a major pump station that sends a majority of the flow to the treatment plant, and the treatment plant itself, is what I'll say, for lack of better terms, a shared asset, by all the users right now, and the cost is
Paid for by the usage fees and the quarterly fees, taxes, so that is, everyone who uses the sewer, whether you're in Victor, Farmington, Canandaigua, is paying for the operation of the plant and the collection system.
there is no taxing system on the sewer side. It's all user fees. Karen?
I'm also an employee of the, water and sewer district. So we get revenue through the billing cycle, correct? So we're not gonna charge back anything for this project. But if we can't make ends meet as it is, we're getting some grant money, or we're gonna try for grant. We're just budgeting, or getting a giant $14 million loan. How is this cash flow working if we're not monitoring our rates, monitoring our revenues?
Sure. So in the current budget, it's over $900,000 a year to pay off bond, the current bond on the plant. Some of that expires this year in 2026, the balance expires in 2028. So by the time we get the grants and see what money we have there, and the engineering and everything, construction won't start till late 27 or 28, when the bonds are paid for, and then that 900,000 plus can be put towards the new project. If the prices come in too high, or we don't get one grant instead of two, then we make a priority list of what to do. So maybe the project is only $8 to $10 million and not 14. it's definitely a decision that we work with Aaron and our engineers and the town board on the finance side, but we won't know that number. We have to go in now for the bonding in order to get the grant applications in on time. But we won't know that number until we actually go out for bid. If we, let's say we only get one grant instead of two, then the actual bid will either include less items or include a list separated so that the contractors, the bidders would give us a price on the itemized list, and then we could pick or choose. Okay.
We can always, if we need to delay things, we could apply for more grants and following cycle and try and spread it out, but there is a, like, there's a large bond thing that is expiring that would, this would basically kind of take that place most likely, a similar amount, so it wouldn't have a, it wouldn't, it's not like we're just tagging on an extra $15 million and figuring out how to pay for it, it's that there's a large bill that's clearing up. And we need to do some more work, and hopefully we can get as much, grant money as possible and get everything done at once, but we've had the discussion, like, it's not possible in the finance to make sense, and we'll get as much that we have to do, and then, anything that could wait a little bit longer, than we would take some time to figure out, another grant application for those projects, or however we need to, we want to ask for, we have to have the ability to bond the whole project so that we can potentially get grants for the whole project, and then have the funding report, we could always do less. We could always do less if that's what the finances dictate.
But that seems like we're chasing it too. It's like fixing your car. Well, the muffler's loud, it doesn't need fixed today, but so what are we doing to budget? So we're not having to chase money, find money, get grants, get loans, get bonds. We need to be investing our money, utilizing it so that down the road, if we can't do the 14.7, we can only do 10. That other part's gonna come crashing on us somehow, some way. And we're gonna be chasing. We're chasing right now. We're waiting for a bond to be paid so we can do the next step. That should have probably been done 5 years ago. Like, we're just chasing. How is our town going to bring our town up to a system where we're not in debt?
Chief plant operator, they have taken a fresh look at the plant, and they've identified some more pressing concerns, and they've done a very good job being very proactive and trying to get this handled. So what was done in the past, we can't really go back and rehash that, but Aaron and Robert, I know what Aaron and Aaron and Robert are very proactive about, let's get as much as possible. We're gonna shoot for the stars and hope we get everything. If there's a couple things that we can't get done just because of the grants or other finances, we're not forgetting about them. We're just gonna consider, hey, this is something that we can certainly address next year. We'll apply for more grants, and if they don't come in, then we're just gonna consider something. So there's things we have to do, and then every year we address quarterly usage fees, the connection rate, and we try to make sure that we're charging enough to fund the system. And the other thing about this upgrade is that it should hopefully lower some of our ongoing maintenance costs, because of this, with some newer pieces, and the crews will be less busy kind of chasing the problems at the plant and have more time to address.
It'll certainly give us more time to focus on other items.
Yeah, so if we have refresh of the plant, would we have some time and hopefully some resources to address other parts of the system. Obviously not gonna be 100% fixed, and there's never gonna be a problem there, but it should help eliminate a lot of the recurring issues and the things that we have been chasing that need to be addressed with a better solution.
Yes.
So you realize you're still being, we spent about $15 to $18 million in 04, 05. And so the majority of that does not need to be addressed with this project, and is running, is beyond its useful life, or has useful life well beyond the 20-year bond that we're gonna be terminating and last another 20 years, things like concrete tanks, media, the last that long. So you're definitely gained in a lot of these components that we're addressing, are things that weren't really addressed before 04, 05, so maybe 40 years old, that, are well beyond their useful life. So you're definitely gaining strides. You know, that role in this, that's so.
One thing, that, you know, we are, with the current budget, they're identifying items that are within the budget to replace as they go along. The clarifier that Aaron talked about that's not working right now, we actually funded the liner material that on the inside, I can't remember if it's stainless or.
Fiberglass reinforced plastic.
Yeah, thank you. So the liner got caught in the rotating system and the liner was torn. So in last year's budget, we purchased that liner and it just got here. Last week, was it? Okay, good. Yeah, so they've done a lot of their own labor to tear the old one out and start to put the new liner in. Now, we're still on the motor on the top, the arms will be part of the construction project so that we got a complete upgraded clarifier. And then some of the pumps are $60,000-$70,000 each. And so we've asked Aaron to go out and get prices and let's replace one of them in this year's budget so it's not in the bid. But their parts are very expensive in the sewer.
I would just say that if grant can be obtained, it pays a certain percentage of the cost, say it pays 25% of the project cost. Now incorporating it into the project, town is really spending 75 cents on a dollar or something like that. So, you know, the first step would be to get these things incorporated in the project and look for funding, and then if we don't get it, which I wouldn't be surprised, you know, not that would, but you know, then we would reset and maybe consider doing some of those other components outside. To give you a sense though, 14.7 million, that bond payment over 30 years is comparable to your bond payment now. So if we get a couple grants, you know, we may be lower than your current debt service by not really bank on that right now.
Yeah, so we're used to doing this. We have a couple of new board members, but we just finished the completion of the Brickyard Road water tank and transmission line. And that was a joint effort with the town of Canandaigua Town Board and this board. So we went from a $1 million, 1 million gallon tank to a 2 million gallon tank. Again, through the bidding process and everything, we just went through the financing of the bond to pay for that. And we closed the end of this month. So we have a AA- credit rating, just like Victor Canandaigua does from S&P. So, you know, we have a good credit rating and we had 7 bidders on the bond. So obviously take the lowest rate and the final signed all the paperwork today, but the final is right at the end of the month where we pay off the band and bond it for, and both towns agreed only 20 years. Let's get it paid for in 20 years. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'm probably just not keeping up well, because it's all new to me, but I'm just trying to understand a couple of things that are probably run down it, hopefully it makes sense. We're talking about a bond that was a larger portion for the whole project. The intent there is so that the product grant is theoretically this amount that the shoulder that goes down on that larger piece, right? But you kept throwing around terms like the town is paying for this, like you mentioned a few times, you mentioned that speaker as well. But at the same time, also that we're paying for the sewer with the rates. So I'm trying to understand, like, are we talking about sewer rates, or are we also talking about the town paying out of the budget? Like, there's a lot of numbers being thrown out here.
Good question. So we have a general budget, we have a highway budget, lighting district budgets in the subdivisions. There's a water budget and there's a sewer budget. those funds are separate. So when we talk sewer, it's sewer funds. And like the current resident's house right now is $95 a quarter for sewer. Commercial businesses pay a lot more. Okay. I can't remember, I'm gonna guess, maybe you guys can help me. The number of sewer units are right around 4,500, 5,000 in Farmington and about the same in Victor. So you multiply that times the number of units that are in that, times 95, and that's your revenue. You know, that's the limitation of the revenue. So their budget is sewer.
Your units add up between Victor and Canada, about 12,500.
All the funds that are in the water and sewer budgets are derived solely. We do not receive any influx of tax dollars or any other funds. And we do sell a small amount of water to another community, and that is a fund that comes back to the water department, but all of our funds are solely derived from the user.
That'll clarify, so then if we're talking about something like, if we kind of, depending on the project, like I know Peter mentioned that, there might be some grants, there might be some shuffling around based on grants coming in, and what projects, and I know you mentioned earlier that, like, that sand filter, that decrease, I'm assuming that's like a high priority that can't be, you know, sort of mandated one, there's some portions of that that are optional and some portions are not. It sounds like there's multiple of these kind of hearings to help us get an idea of, you know, what actually gets done, right? Because you got this larger grant, plus our larger bond piece, depending on how things shake out, you might decide to pause it up, right? We have some idea where you're carving it up to. But the other thing that's also spinning in my head is there some concept of inside those, fees we're collecting from the ratepayers now, such as myself, that's allocated for capital budgets like this? Or, you know, it's like 10%, 20%, maybe to say, you know, over the last 10 years, we got $1 billion, we got $15 million, whatever, we allocated for stuff like this? Or is it just that, like, all of our stuff is right at the 100% utilization point, so you either have to raise rates or find grants or like, you don't have room for trade.
Yep, so there's a Victor revenue line and sewer. Farmington revenue line and sewer, which includes the small piece. There are money set aside for a future sewer line repairs within Farmington. There's a equipment line for the sewer operation, and majority of that would be for plants. That's over 600,000 set aside. And then there's another one I can't think of right now, but. And then the same thing on the water, we have the water revenue line. And then there's money set aside in every budget. It goes to a building we want to build, because some of their equipment is outdoors. So there's a fund from, some funds from sewer, some funds from the water budgets every year that we put into capital project to eventually build that building, okay? And then just a small correction with Aaron, on the water side, there is a water tax. So people are in the Canada Farmington Water District, there is a tax, and that helps pay the capital projects.
So there are capital reserves set aside. Major upgrades with that, and I realize over the last 20 years, there have been many capital projects done in this one. Last major project, we did UV disinfection requirement by UVC, for example, so none of those projects have been bonded. A lot of them have come out of the reserves and direct, you know, the rates.
Yeah, so that's a good example. DEC, we're one of the first in the area to get a UV system, and the DEC says you will install a UV system. It was a little over $2 million. And they gave us like 1.6, 1.7. So we had to come up out of the fund balance. We had to come up for that money. We didn't have a choice. You know, because we had a deadline when to bid it, get it installed to meet the DEC requirements. Yeah, there's, again, there's a fund balance there that's, and then the budget process is done every year. The department heads, already returned back to my accountant and myself, the 5-year capital plans from all the departments, all were turned in by Friday, which was the deadline. Friday, our accountant sent out my, budget memo, how to follow in the budget, and they also got their budget sheets. You know, building department is probably 3 sheets, but when you get into the water, sewer, and highway department, there's 20 budget sheets. It's a line by line of every budget item that is approved from one year to the next. Those are accounting codes set up by New York State that we follow. Very, it's intense, but you know, they've got basically a month to go through all that and then turn it back in to my office. My accountant and I, we looked it all over. Then we might call them in, the department heads one-on-one, go over it. And then for the budget season, the whole town board looks at the budget. We have public notices. We call in, we have 3 fire departments, and we still fund Massillon Library. And then you've got the lighting districts, the sidewalk districts, water and sewer, highway, drainage district, parks, and building department. It's, you know, it's a budget binder this thick when you get done. That process has started now. And then said their budget sheets are due back August 11. I believe it is. And in September, we had public meetings where we bring in the department, sit down with the whole board and make go line by line. Yes.
This is something like that, but, I'm not worried about the budget. Every state, town, entity, all say the same thing, lowest bidder. Do you ever realize that you count on your town to be protected from contaminants, anything by the lowest bidder?
We can reject the lowest bid if they don't meet the requirements.
Lowest
If they don't
responsible
have
bid.
If they don't have, if they don't have a background and experience with the work, they do, the engineer goes through that, they have to meet certain requirements. They can't just be, hey, I'm gonna decide that on the low, I'm gonna shoot up this project.
You set a standard, and if the provider doesn't meet that, then they don't get hired.
We've rejected the low bidder on other projects when there's been issues with the work they've done previously, complaints against them from other municipalities about the work they've done. They haven't met the requirements for a track record, a history. It's not, you can't just, I'm gonna start a business and I'm gonna decide to bid on this project and I'm gonna come in under it and not actually be, you know, a reasonable bid. And the bid process is not, the companies that actually spend the time and money to go through these complex bid processes, for the most part, there's a small group of pretty well-established and reputable businesses that bid on these projects. So there are some guardrails. It's not, you know, not just anybody could bid on it, but they're probably not gonna meet the requirements of the documentation, and if they do and they're not an appropriate contractor, we can reject that and go to the next low bid of somebody who meets the requirements.
Particularly with the wastewater treatment plant job, there is literally a handful of very experienced contractors. you tend to see, and Bill can, you tend to see the same 3, 4 contractors bid on all of these larger projects around the area. The common 3 or 4 are all reputable, have successfully completed a number of projects, so at least in the sewer environment, there's definitely some protection. That doesn't necessarily ensure, that gives us some relative confidence that we're gonna get a good guy.
We are always. Just makes you feel like all I have to do are due diligence.
And we've sat in this room with 5 bidders and the town clerk's here with me and we go through. If there's addendums, we make sure the contractor is recognized that they know there's addendums. We look for the non-collusive certificate signed by the corporate owner. And in the bid bond, they gotta provide a bid bond, okay? We've had a low bidder 2 years ago, forgot to sign on inclusive bid certificate. There is nothing we can do, New York state law. They can't come in and sign it. You know, it's gotta be part of that bid package, so we went to the next higher bidder in that case. I hate to bring this up, and nobody's mentioned Wood Drive Bridge. Oh, that Wood Drive Bridge, we went, I know, we went out in a bid for that and got 1 bidder. The engineers at the time was Fisher Associates, did our bridge work and does a lot of our trail work. They went back out to the contractors that picked up specs, and it wasn't a lot. But they're all busy. They said, we can't do that work this year. We gotta do it 27. Guess what? The 1 bidder told us the same thing. I can't get the precast form bridge until 27. So there it is. You know, you have to deal with each individual bid separately and hope for the best. Yes.
Mark Graf, 953 Crowley Road. This is a question for Aaron. Roughly, how many miles of pipe that's in the ground that's nothing to do with the plant? Like, it's all connected to the plant, I get it. But roughly, there's somewhere in the order of,
Approaching 150 miles.
right, so more than road.
We have a roughly equal amount of water. That's just sanitary sewer pipe. That includes force main piping and gravity pipe.
Roughly how old is it?
The vast majority of it is, a good amount of it is probably 50 years old. And then there's, I mean, obviously the town of Farmington has been growing and building significantly over the years. So there's also a large amount of the sewer that is newer. That's 20 years and younger. We take that sewer monthly, weekly. So, you know, it's a mixed bag. You know, there are some old parts of the system where we're 50, 60 years old. I will say that the vast majority of the sewer piping is in good condition. Despite its age, it's not subject to the pressures of water pipe, so it doesn't tend to degrade. Old material, the water piping does not do well around here because of the soils, but our sewer piping is by and large in good to very good condition. There's a lot of it.
Taker did a large project with the pump station with a new sewer transmission line.
Victor is addressing one of the worst segments of pipe for the project. We're very excited about this causes problems.
Yeah, so but that's a good point, is besides the user fees from Victor, they have a bunch of pump stations over there, so we maintain them on a daily basis. But when a pump station has to be replaced or a generator, a lot of the stations don't have generators, so Victor is starting in their capital plan to add generators. They pay for that. It's not part of the sewer fees. That the revenue that we get. 2 years ago, they did a $9 million job. They rerouted the sewer from the east or western part of the town through the village, down the Auburn Trail to the plant to take the load off of the sewer that was coming up over all the hills. More than just Eastview Mall, a lot of the fishers, Main Street 96, a lot of that sewer was coming up over the hills at Willowbrook through multiple pump stations, through Cobblestone to the plant. So they took the load off of some of them pump stations by spending $9 million in rerouting the sewer. So we don't have to maintain the point on an average daily basis because like Aaron says, they last forever. But it's a big project. We don't want you to know the whole picture. Jen?
Back to the money thing, just a two-part question. I know the grants and all that stuff. We do, on your taxes, you do pay a water district fee on your taxes.
Right.
Why do we not have a sewer district fee? Part one. Part two is VLT money. I know there's specifics as to what that money can be used for. It has to benefit the racetrack.
The entirety of the town, I think.
As far as I know, I mean, I don't know a lot about VLT, but I'm just wondering if there was any way possible for that to be a help.
What she's talking about is video lottery terminal money that we get from New York State every year because of Finger Lakes Gaming Racetrack. We actually, there's another sewer project, grant that hasn't been brought up tonight. It's, every county was allowed to have one infrastructure application or a grant up to $1 million. So we were number 2 in the list last year when we did an application. The city of Geneva on it. This year there was 4 applicants. City Canandaigua, Phelps, either Gorham or Seneca and us. And we were selected on the committee at Ontario County to go for that grant. So that started in March, April timeframe. We did the final application, a lot of paperwork, a lot of letters, like 20 letters of support, a lot of data. Sent that in June, meet the deadline then. 30 June, I think it was Friday. Ontario County gets a letter from Empire State Development. Oh, by the way, we need 5 more things, and we got till 10 July. You know, so including the weekend in between. And then Tom Harvey, who was planning director at Ontario County, he retired on July 2nd. So Ron Brand and I and our accountant, MRB said, thank God MRB has a grant division because we had to really scramble. We got 3 of the 5 items in before retired. He submitted them for us. And then we worked with his staff for the other 2 items and got the last one in Thursday. Now we're waiting for that. It's a $2.1 million project. We asked for a full $1 million for the grant. The VLT money will be used on pump station 1 out front of the Finger Lakes Skating and Racetrack, which is about $500,000 in itself. Give or take a few thousand. So
It can be used in certain instances. The guidelines are kind of like a checklist. It should be something that benefits the racetrack and then also provides a benefit to a majority of the town. So we've used it in the past to help the fire department with some equipment and other projects.
this building.
So it's whether it could be used for the treatment plant, if that's what you're asking, I don't know if that's something. I don't think it would be even though obviously the casino tries to use it. I don't know, they're pretty picky about like when what we can use the money for. The comptroller's office is always kind of, even I was spending it and it was kind of shaking that I don't know the kind of those requirements for DLT money.
I doubt it. Past that, Victor,
Yes, every year, we put somewhere between 250,000 and $500,000 in the highway budget. For either equipment or road repair from the DLT. We fully gutted this building and added an addition to your DLT money and
Hiring for it.
in the general fund. And the highway garage, there's a lot of DLT money in general funds, but money that we saved over the years, and the same with the park. And we can use DLT money for most anything in the general budget, which is the A budget.
It'd be nice, but I mean, probably not something we could use that money.
We can't have a sewer tax like we have in water.
Say that.
Okay. We don't currently, so I'm just wondering about if that's a possibility.
Know that I was involved in the finance end of the 0405 project. I was involved in at that time, it must have been decided in Victor Farm to put the debt service in rate. And I'm sure there was the IMA finance, yes, but may have just been at that point and this rate equitably share the cost.
The town board, we have quarterly finance meetings, next Tuesday. The town board meets with our accountant, and we go over the first 6 months of revenue expenses for all the accounts. After we get through that, then I share the water one with the town of Canandaigua, and I share the sewer one from Victor. They see the revenues line by line, revenues and expenses up through June 30th.
You will imagine the board meeting that had if we try to create a new taxing district. It's almost kind of it's an easier process to deal with through the quarterly user fees as opposed to grading.
Do you anticipate those increasing?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said you anticipate those increasing the quarterly.
It's something that we look at every year, like budget wise, like what we've done some increases in the user rates. But again, the timing and one of the reasons this project was being pushed for now is as the old bonds expire, we could pick up new bonds and it wouldn't really affect that operating budget because it's going to replace that when we allow the new bonds. So this project alone wouldn't be on itself unless the bond is unless interest rates go crazy in that time or something more happens that this we could have a drastic increase on the user fees because we already have that budget within the user fees to pay for the bond and with this one gone and be transferred to that one. An increase in user fees, if we have to pay for any other projects, any other expenses in the water department is something that and the board deals with when it comes to budget time to see like how we're going to fund everything if it's going to require an increase in user fees.
Your hope would be that it wouldn't affect us, but more than likely affect.
This project most likely wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
Because the expiring bond, which is already covered with user fee, is likely to be close to covering a new bond. So it's just gonna, instead of being able to like, oh, there's no longer this $900,000 payment, like let's spend the money elsewhere at lower fees, it's gonna be, well, we have to do some more work, so we're gonna pick up another payment to replace that one that's gonna keep that line somewhat similar. Obviously, that every year we look at the budget.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
figure out
we increase it.
what we need to spend it on, and again, that's how they generate revenues.
Our user fee isn't, I have done some research as far as
It's not
other
high
towns and
compared to
ours
other
is low compared
It's in the
to,
middle.
Yeah.
other, I
It's
mean,
relatively average.
I talked to a guy on the phone the other day who said he wished he was back in Farmington because now he's paying $140 a quarter instead of 95.
Right.
So, yeah. Ours are minimal compared to a lot of them.
Yes, sir.
My name's Scott Freeland, I live in Farmbrook. With regards to raising rates, would that help give the gentleman in the water district and sewer more available to have their pay raise increase and become comparable to the rest of the district?
You just can't do it in 1 year. Because let's just say there, again, I don't know how many sewer units there are. But let's just say there's 5,000 sewer units. And you raise it $5 sewer unit. That's 25,000. It's not a lot of money. Times 4, $100,000. So it's not a lot of money when you're looking at the overall budget.
We've run the numbers, it's 14-cent increase in water rate, $4 increases for rate base, yeah. All right. We presented that information as well.
Anything else on the sewer plant? All right. Thanks, Aaron and Bill. Appreciate it. I'm gonna close the public hearing. Board sustaining committees, Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works, we met this morning, right here in this room, had our updates from water and sewer, highway and park. I'll start with the, treatment plant. Land Tech was in, and installed a new, road back actuator valve, also, new exhaust fan in the filter press building. The waste, the operators are conducting pH tests around the plant, to find out if it's pinpoint of pH drop. Let's see, they're troubleshooting a foam issue on digester number 3, the heat exchanger number 2, which is back online and operating. They replaced the belt and grease bearings on the exhaust fans for the methane gas room. They're doing the round 2 of the WET testing. Got a big list here. Cleaned the well wells at the racetrack, pump station, ongoing maintenance, various different pump stations that they worked and we all talked about this morning. General comments. Barkham Dune sewer repairs begin the week of 7, will begin at the week of 7/6. All right. They've been removing some trees that fell over. We have a lot of that issue on Barkham Dune Rise. They formed a new generator pad for PS13. They clean up from the water main repair on North Road. The North Water Tank inspection, that has been completed, and they're just waiting on the final report. Staff is conducting hydrant maintenance and painting around town. They put out door knockers for the next round of water meter replacements. That obviously they've been working on their budget worksheets. They had a sewer backup on Mountain Ash Drive. And they've been getting equipments to go to auction ready. And they got one resolution, we can talk about that if we need to at the time. Highways got ongoing equipment maintenance, roadside mowing, sweep and stone from the oil and stone roads. They've been trimming trees from roads and removing fallen trees. They've been string trimming around the road signs. They did concrete work and gutters, catch basins, and topsoiled and seeded. They've been prepping gutters and repairing and replacing. Blacktop roads crossings from replaced pipes. And they got fiber mat going on September 1st for Hook Road. And we got no resolutions there. Park are out there doing equipment maintenance, mowing and trimming, field lining, setting up, broken down, and breakdown for the July 3rd fireworks. In the buildings, they had the carpet cleaning done here in the town hall, court, and highway buildings. Doyle did the, fire alarm testing. The sprinkler and backflow test, will take place on the 15th. Landry was out for the PM and submitted a list of repairs. And Jeff has that list. I think that's it, one new hire resolution.
Thanks, Ron. On operations.
Yep, 7 resolutions we can discuss. I'm not gonna talk about the wastewater treatment plant anymore. Accessory structure committee continues to meet. We're hoping to have a draft resolution, at the end of this month or the first week in August. The fire station number 2 project at Book 96, just waiting on, submission of the final drawings, signing, and final site plan approval. The next steps will involve the issuing of the building permits and pre-construction meeting. Once that's done, couple pending solar applications the planning board is looking at. I know they had been waiting quite a while on some more information they request from the applicant. Pintail dedication, we're hoping to have that done. Fingers crossed on that. And then once that road is dedicated, it can become a detour for the Wood Drive Bridge, and we can close that. Hoping to have the dedication in August. Fairdale Meadows is asking for a pre-review meeting, and that's 40 lot single family development across from the racetrack near Fairdale Glen. Ron has posted the town operations report. Environmental Conservation Board is meeting on July 27th. Is Hal here? Yep, we can touch on Ag Committee, and Zoning Board is also meeting on July 27th.
All right, thank you. Reports of other town officials, supervisor, a little bit more on Wood Drive Bridge. We did receive, our attorney did receive the legal paperwork. One of the 2 packages, so he's reviewing that. And hoping that the developer, the townhomes, that their attorney gets their package in for their section of the road. To our attorneys, like Nate said, hopefully we can approve that in August. And then also, we did have a pre-construction meeting, July 9th with the contractor for the bridge. He does want to do some work this year. It, mostly clearing the brush on the channel near the bridge, moving a light pole, and we're, as part of the budget, we're, relocating water line. So it doesn't come out of the water budget, it's part of the budget, so, for the bridge. And that, those funds were also, we worked with Ontario County on, and Genesee Transportation Council, to get the award of that funds to pay for the majority of the bridge. I think our cost is like 10 or 15% of the total bridge project. Code complaints continue to come into the building department, all types of topics. E-bike plates are actually lower the last 2 weeks. This may be due to law enforcement stopping more individuals and explaining the DMV requirements. And there has been 2 or 3 individuals ticketed and some e-bikes confiscated already in the town. On the finance side, 2027 budget sheets for the Farmington 5-year capital projects and equipment purchases. As I mentioned, those worksheets are back in our office now for review. My supervisor budget guidance memo and the budget sheets went out to them on last Friday, July 10th. We talked briefly about the Brickyard Road tank. We did receive 7 bids for the bond financing of the Brickyard Road tank. I'm pleased to report of the 7 bids, we were able to get a 20-year average rate of 3.705%. Very good. All along in that budget, we were figuring from our bond people, they're always giving us estimates of 5 to 5.25. under 4% is good. 2027 health insurance coverage. Again, something we're looking at again in this budget. The increases for all our employees and retirees at the current announced rate by the health insurance company is an increase in $233,560.54 from 26 to 27. Our total health insurance costs for 2027, if they don't reduce the rates, is going to be $1,602,920.70. That's, again, for all our employees that chose healthcare, and there's quite a lot of retirees that still get healthcare. We talked about different funds, so that health insurance is broke out between the general fund, the highway fund, water and sewer. It's not all coming out of one budget. Today in Ontario County, we also finalized the grant through the county, as I mentioned, 2.150 sewer projects and for sewer capacity improvement project. And we're asking for a maximum of $1 million on that grant. That was finalized, like I said, last Thursday. Today I attended the Economic Development Committee meeting. Tomorrow I have a special Ways and Means Committee at the county. And Thursday evening, we have the Ontario County Board of Supervisors meeting. And that's all I have. Highway.
All right, today we started doing the site prep work for the new topsoil building. Finally, we got a location nailed down for that. I am actively working on a item that was budgeted for last year. I have two companies that have been out to get the measurements for the doors that are in the man doors on the highway garage. So I'm just waiting back on those. I only have two companies right now. So we'll come to you with what I find soon regarding that. The dates for when we are going to be doing our next projects. The week of June 27th, 28th, and 29th is when we have July.
You said June also.
Yes, I did. July 27th, 28th, and 29th. It's the last week of July. We will be milling Colette Road from 332 to Mertensia, and Stonefield off of Green, and then we will be doing Estate in Chelsea as well. I don't know exactly which timeframes we're going to be at everything, but the first job that we are going to be starting for both when we go to mill and pave will be the one on Colette, because the state will be out on 332 to do traffic. So I have that coordinated with them for June 27th. Then we will be doing our paving on those roads, repaving them the week of August 3rd through the 6th, and the week after, which is August 10th through the 13th. The only addition to the paving will be Colette Road from County Road 8 to County Road 28. That is getting a 2-inch overlay on that road. We will not be milling that road. And then, just so that way it is on the record, the fiber mat that was supposed to have taken place immediately following the stone and oil process has been rescheduled to September 1st because Midland, the company that does the fiber mat process, they have two machines. One of them was broken down and the other one was in use that day, and it took them about a week to get it taken care of. They've since gotten it taken care of, but because we're in the middle of our busy season, as well as Victor's doing their paving as well, I opted to go for as early in September as possible, so that way we could avoid Victor's and our stone and oil or paving projects, so that way we don't have to worry about scheduling conflicts. So hopefully that'll be done and taken care of before school happens. I believe that is it on my side.
All right, thanks. Nobody from Parks tonight? Clerk.
Yes, for our June report, we have issued 15 marriage licenses. We also issued a one-day marriage officiant license. I officiated 7 marriages in June. We had 17 park reservations, 6 lodge deposits, 15 lodge key deposits, 21 vital records requests, 5 hunting and fishing licenses, and 219 dog licenses, on top of collecting for water and sewer as well. I started working on the 2027 budget, and today we also had a website meeting on the design. Hopefully we will be going live in October is what we're aiming for. And lastly, happy birthday to Sean.
No. Most of the day.
Gotcha.
I knew that was
Thank you.
coming. Thanks. Water?
I'm drinking rum today.
Circle back to a couple of items that Ron mentioned. We did set out door knockers for replacement of some aging and malfunctioning water meters. If you've got them, please respond. The process of changing the water meter takes 15 minutes. Costs you nothing. It's a necessary upgrade for us. Water meters have a lifespan, and we're systematically working through the entire system to replace them all. So again, if you got a door knocker, please reach out. We'll get you scheduled. We'll get you taken care of quick. Ron also mentioned that I have staff out in the north and northwest portion of town conducting hydrant maintenance and painting. In some occasions, this is going to require some shoulder closure and some traffic control. So please obey the signage. Please obey the flaggers. Keep my guys safe out there. You may notice that for a period of time, hydrants are white. This is a primer. We get a lot of phone calls about the white fire hydrants.
Don't see them in the winter.
We work through these systematically. We clean them, then we prime them, then we paint them. They will be yellow soon. So please hold the phone calls. Thank you. We started up our new disinfection byproduct removal equipment. We touched on with you earlier at the Brickyard tank. We're working through some minor electrical issues with our engineer and with the equipment manufacturer. As I've been sitting here, I just received confirmation that the sewer work that we've been doing between Highview Trail and Bark and Dune Rise and the Victor portion of our system is complete. They finished the last manhole today. They'll be pulling out of town tomorrow morning. Thanks to my staff who came in and fueled the pumps up every night and every morning. And thanks to my counterpart, Keith Maynard at the town of Victor, for assisting us when coordinating with the residents over there in Victor. It was a good collaborative project. Happy to put it to bed. We hosted a group from the Pollution Prevention Institute at RIT for a wastewater treatment plant tour. These folks are investigating alternatives to landfilling our sludge, trying to derive a beneficial use product, and would, in the long run, save us a considerable amount of money that we spend on hauling our sludge to the landfill. So anxious for them to get started with that project. This was kind of a kickoff for that project, for them to come and see our facility, ask questions, and learn a little bit more about what we do there. And also received confirmation before the meeting that finally our generator for the main pump station at Plaster Mill is in. Electrician should take delivery of it this week, and then we'll be coordinating installation shortly thereafter. And that's it for me. Thank you.
So what you mentioned about Bark and Dune Drive, contract we have in there is taking care of that I&I that was mentioned earlier. So some of our sewer manholes are 10, 12 feet deep. Some of them are 30 feet.
This group of manholes, the bulk of them were approaching 30 feet deep, and they were in poor condition. They were taking on water, and they were also just in generally poor condition, getting degraded from the gases that are in the sewer. So we applied a chemical resistant liner that has a 10-year warranty on it. We've had a number of manholes lined with this product. We're very happy with it and very happy to get this done. These are some of the worst manholes in the system.
So part of the budget, 50,000 on the Farmington side, 50,000 on the Victor side, going towards manhole repairs. All right, thank you. Building and zoning, Patrick.
Sure. So we had a fire call out on Terrence Lane. We're doing an interview this week to fill our code officer vacancy. We reviewed draft code updates on accessory structures. We completed final inspection at the Victor Farmington ambulance. We're awaiting some paperwork to issue the C of O. We met with Scott Parkers about temporary storage during the firehouse project. As far as numbers for the month, we did 87 permits were issued, 202 inspections were completed, 30 fire inspections, and 24 complaints. As far as the complaints go, we'd like to remind people that in order for us to address them, they need to be done online through our complaint system. That way we can track them and efficiently follow through on them. And that's all.
Thank you. Ed, any more?
Certainly, we have a number of items on the agenda. We have public hearing for the new energy equity Lindfish Solar Project. We have the preliminary site plan and special use permit. We're still in the environmental phase of review on that. Then we have a number of items which are looking to determine if they're complete. Well, we have a letter of credit first for Auburn Meadow Release 3, but then we have a major home occupation for furniture refinishing, special use permit on Amber Drive. That's to determine if it's complete. The same for Rustin Paving. An application for preliminary site plan approval of a building addition, 3,500 square feet building addition, and a 31,000 square foot expansion of the impervious surface. We have a preliminary re-subdivision of some property on the south side of Kite Road and east side of County Road 28. We have the same, let's see, that's for preliminary re-subdivision. Then we have a preliminary site plan or subdivision plat for the same location. We also have a application special use permit, again for major home occupation for a tree service out on Sheldon Road. We have a preliminary site plan for construction of a single family home on Green Road, or south of Green Road, west side of Hook Road. And that's what we had. A lot of review to make sure it's complete, and then we'll schedule them up.
Right, thank you.
Yep.
Ron, Director of Planning and Development.
Okay, the county continues work on its access management program. You'll be hearing much more about that soon. The state of New York has amended the seeker regulations requiring additional criteria, judicial justice requirement that we now have to take into consideration. There are new seeker forms as of July this year. And the state is also mandating commercial projects to implement renewable energy sources. So the first project that we have ongoing that is doing that is Villager, where they have installed rooftop energy systems. The town ops report, as Nate mentioned, has been posted. There's new pictures in there. The ambulance corps building, take a look at that, see what it's been remodeled for. And the Blackbrook study is underway. I'm going to let Hal talk about that maybe. And the only other thing going is really not related to us, but the USDA has contacted New York State and asked them to justify their use of prime and unique agricultural soils for these solar projects. And related to that, we are the first one in this part of the country to require protection of those resources by our code provisions that we have, and we're starting that with the fish solar farm project. Anything else? That's it.
Okay, thank you. Town engineer, Bill.
Yep, we talked about the wastewater plant, so in conjunction with that, we've been working on seeker and the grant applications that are due at the end of the month. There's a number of resolutions on tonight relative to all that, so. County Road 8 water main replacement design, closing out Brickyard Road tank with the exception of a few punch list items that need to be addressed. And Cranberry Drive has been completed and hopefully we'll be closing that project out, maybe next meeting, so. That's it.
Great, thank you. The assessor, Donna's not here tonight, but she did want to remind everybody on July 28th, her and her assistant will be given a brief presentation on veterans exemptions. We have a new historian. Her hours are Friday afternoon here at the town hall. Recreation, Mark sent me the following information. Entering week 3 of recreation, the first 2 weeks averaged over 280 campers per day. First field trip had 227 campers participate. That was a boot camp obstacle course. The field trip this week is Seabreeze, which is always popular. And again, July 3rd fireworks were a success, and he's continually receiving the donation from the food vendors. We had 7 or 8 food vendors this year to take care of the large crowd. Hard for us to estimate, but you know, we say probably around 4,000 people are here. We closed off the main entrance for the parking at 9 o'clock at night, and the fireworks didn't go off till 9:45. We just totally ran out of parking space. They were everywhere here in the, out of the ball fields and all around the back of the town hall, and double parked on the entranceway here as well. And so the weather cooperated. It was a good night. We thank the fire department, the ambulance corps for always being here for that. And New York State Police helped us direct traffic out at Road and Colette. And then we had 4 deputies that did here at County Road 8 and Colette, and 96 and County Road 8. So to get the traffic going south and going west out of here a lot faster. That's all I have for recreation. Al, Agriculture Advisory Committee.
Just a quick update on the last book, actually drainage study. The county planning department has sent out letters to property owners that are adjacent those 2 streams. They identified something like 40 landowners, mostly in Farmington, a few in the town of Manchester. I would encourage you to encourage landowners to cooperate with this. This quality is, or study is only going to be as good as the cooperation we get from landowners to let the engineering firm in to assess the stream for them. They are planning to do that either the last week of July or the week of August 10th to 14th, depending on weather conditions and so on. That's 5 days for this firm to assess 10 miles or so of stream. It's, in my opinion, very ambitious. We'll see, but I would love to see the landowners in the town do our part and cooperate, because I'm sure the engineering firm will not go on any property they don't have permission to access.
Do you have a mechanic idea then?
That's, I'm not privy to that. I'm pretty sure it won't work.
All right, thanks, I appreciate it. Finance I've already mentioned. Going on the agenda, communications are on file. Reports and minutes. And 2 items that are on file. And going with resolutions. First resolution is waiving permit fees to the Farmington Volunteer Fire Department for their 78th annual.
I'll move.
Which my name is, all in favor?
Aye.
As I mentioned earlier, resolution 2 has been approved, pulled. Read the resolution offering acceptance of the monthly report of the supervisor for June 26th.
Move.
Second.
Mr. Harvey, second by Matt. Any questions on that? All in favor? Aye. Or is a resolution waiving the potential lodge fees for the Cobblestone Arts Center classes for adults with disabilities and various dates in July, August, and September.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by Nate. Those are basically daytime hours that the lodge is normally not running anyways. But it's definitely a good cause. All in favor?
Aye.
Five is a resolution authorizing the park supervisor to hire a laborer at a rate of $21 an hour effective July 5th.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion by Nate, second by Ron, a slim margin. Again, the parks, with this hire, the Parks Department will be full. All in favor?
Aye.
Six, resolution authorizing a wage increase for the construction inspector Dave Owens to $35.25 an hour effective July 5th, 2026.
I'll move.
Motion by Nate. Second by Ron. Any
Can we lay that one over?
comment?
I'd like to, if that's okay with everybody.
Seven, resolution approving a request for final release of funds, letter of credit, site 2 improvements, Monarch Manor.
Block 7, 8, 9.
Any objections? Any objections of blocking 7, 8, and 9? Hearing none? Okay, so 7 is for $195,242.69. 8 is $161,627.95. And 9 is approving the final release of funds and letter of credit for $146,213.04. Any questions? Did we get a second?
Second.
Second, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, first and a second, and blocking 7, 8, and 9. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Guns of resolution accepting the drafts of parts 2 and 3 of the full environmental assessment review, supporting information entitled Town of Farmington Wastewater Treatment Rehabilitation Project 2025, amended 2026. Ontario County, New York, 14425.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Aubrey, second by Matt. Any questions on environmental assessment? All in favor? Aye. 11, resolution making findings and determinations of the non-significance upon the action entitled Town of Farmington Wastewater Treatment Plant Rehabilitation Project 2025, amended 2026 in Ontario County, New York, 14425.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Matt, second by Ron. Any questions on that? Hearing none? Yes. In favor?
Aye.
Follows a resolution authorizing acceptance of donation from Farmington Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $1,500 for the July 3rd celebration.
Oh,
Second.
By Nate, second by Aubrey. For at least the last 3 years, the Farmington Chamber has basically donated money to just a year. All in favor?
Aye.
13 is a resolution operating the budget amendment in the general fund for the justice.
Moved.
Second, Nate. Again, port organization, they go out every year for New York State funds to purchase items from New York State. They've been very successful. This is for $5,273.02. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 14 is a resolution approving a request for final funds letter of credit site section 7 and site improvements, Auburn Meadows and Center zoning project in a total amount of $137,289.18.
So moved.
Motion by Nat, second by Ron. Any questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have to do 15 and 16 are out of order. We do 16. Resolution of the Town of Farmington Town Board approving the proposed improvements to facility of the Town of Farmington Sewer District, and this requires a roll call vote. Nate, second by Ron. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Ingoldsby.
Aye.
Councilman Guilfoyle.
Aye.
Councilman Herendeen.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Councilman Lamparella. Aye.
Motion passed. And number 15. Resolution authorizing supplemental bond resolution authorizing general obligation serial bonds to finance the sewer system capital improvements within the town, authorizing the issuance of a bond anticipation note, contemplation thereof, expenditures of the fund, second purpose of determining other matters and connections therein, and this also requires a roll call.
So moved.
Second.
My name, second by Aubrey. Any questions?
Supervisor Ingoldsby.
Aye.
Councilman Guilfoyle.
Aye.
Councilman Herendeen.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Councilman Lamparella. Aye.
Thank you. That resolution. 17, resolution accepting preliminary draft local law 3 dated July 14th, a proposed amendment to chapter 155, the Farmington Code entitled Business Recreation Scheduling, a public hearing on the said local law for next meeting Tuesday, July 28th.
So moved.
Matt, Aubrey, any questions on that? Here. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 18 is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for the approval of the cable vision agreement between Spectrum Northeast LLC and the town of Farmington.
Second.
Motion by name, second by Matt. This is for a public hearing on the 28th. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
19, resolution authorizing the water and sewer superintendent to purchase a 2025 International HX 520 truck from Regional Truck and Trailer at a cost not to exceed $151,000. Motion by Ron, second by Nate. That was discussed in works this morning. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 20 is abstract 13 to pay the bills. General fund, $78,655.54. Highway fund, $15,273.81. Cranberry Road Drive, $9,000. Town park improvements, $5,000. Water tank repair, $21,400. Wood Drive capital project, $1,243.83. Storm drainage, $6,569.64. Lighting district, $3,569.88. Sewer district, $104,612.19. Water district, $548,996.32. Payroll deductions, $43,759.41. Total abstract, $838,080.62. Can I have a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Motion by Army, second by Ron. I just make a comment on the 500 and almost 49,000 bills in water district. Over 500,000 of that is to pay the water we buy from the city of Canandaigua. Any questions on the bills? Any abstentions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. We do have a bunch of training listed under $100. And we had one waiver of the rule. Are there any objections to the waiver of the rules? Hearing none. This is a resolution authorizing the town supervisor to sign a proposal for professional service of the MRB group for our town hall and parks paving project It costs not to exceed $12,000. Motion by Nate, second by Ron. Again, this is in the 26 budget. The areas here and over at the town park, we're gonna have paved, and then over in Beaver Creek Park. One road there never got a top coat, so that's not a mill and fill. That system we paid in top, so we hired MRB engineers to put that whole big package together for us, and then we'll go out to bid here in a couple of months. Hopefully get it all done before the blacktop plant's closing up. Any questions? You good? Yeah. All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you.